like they said, my name is Leslie Ely. I'm a registered dietitian. And feel free to raise your hand with any questions or anything you want to ask me during the presentation if I need to stop or go over anything. But I actually have a question for y'all. Do y'all know what a registered dietitian is and what we do? No. Okay. So most everybody thinks, I make meal plans or I give out meal plans. And so my job at Methodist is really more than that. We are assessing patients in the hospital. If you've ever had any loved ones in the hospital, I'm there making sure that they are getting nutrition, whether it's by mouth, by feeding tube, by IV. We manage all of that, making sure that they stay healthy and they're not malnourished. That's our big goal, is making sure we prevent that. And so that's what I do from day to day. And like I said, I kind of switched gears and I cover an oncology floor. That's kind of been my newfound love. And so I think this presentation that I'm going to talk about today kind of goes hand in hand with some of the things that I talk to my oncology patients about, because we all have a heart and we all want it to keep beating as long as it can. So really just basic information for everybody today. And so you can go to the next slide. So when we talk about winter fruits and vegetables, we want to know what's in season, right? We want to know what we're going to be looking for at the grocery store. And so some things that are in season right now, if you think about it, I don't know about y'all, but I was really cold when I walked in. And so these have to be more hardy fruits and vegetables, produce, because they're probably also grown in the cold weather as well. So think about bok choy, broccoli, cauliflower, celery, our citrus fruits. We're about to come up on our citrus fruit seasons, clementines, grapefruits, lemons, limes, those kind of things. Leafy greens actually are in season right now, collard greens, kale, spinach, anything like that. And then our root vegetables, those things that grow in the ground, beets, turnips, carrots, all those hardier vegetables. The next one. So how do we know it's in season? Good chance is if you go to the grocery store and you are about to buy some strawberries and they're about $9, you can probably think, okay, this is probably not something that's in season. They've had to bring that in from somewhere else. That's kind of what I tell my husband too. It's like, if you bought them before for $3 and they're $9 now, don't get them. They're not going to be as good as when they're the $3, right? And so just kind of take a look around. What are they running specials on? What kind of seems like a good deal to you? You can also shop local at a farmer's market. That's going to be not only just farm to table, but they're probably going to be able to give you some really good prices there. Gardening. I don't know if anybody in here gardens or has a little backyard garden. That's something we did this year with my 4-year-old, actually, to teach her about kind of the importance of knowing where our food's from start to finish. So teaching her how to cook with those things and getting her in the kitchen. But just knowing that you can also do some of these things in your backyard. Some of these kale, we grew kale in our backyard garden, grows great. You can forget about it. Don't ask me how I know that. And it'll still grow for you. And so I had a baby over the summer, so there was a lot of forgetting about the garden. But just think about how fresh and local that'll be, if you grew it yourself. And also a little physical activity to go along with that. Getting out in the garden and gardening, that is also good for our heart health, being physically active. So if we're not able to buy fresh produce at the grocery store for some reason, We can also do frozen, canned, and dried. These are another great way to get in some of these good fruits and veggies. I talk to my patients all day long about these options as well, because I know sometimes these are what's available to people. And so as a dietitian, I'm not going to say, only buy fresh produce. That's not always appropriate for everybody. So you can find these in almost every store, one of these versions, fresh, canned, frozen, dried. Just making sure you're looking at the label for things like added sugar or added sodium, especially the sodium piece when we're talking about heart health. So we'll go to the next one.
Did it go?
It did not. So we are going to talk about some heart healthy veggies first. And so the dark green leafies is where I'm going to start, because these guys are packed with nutrients. I'm sure y'all have heard that before. They've got vitamin C, vitamin K, we've got manganese. These are vitamins and minerals. They're rich in antioxidants and just really great things that are good for our heart health. One of my favorite things to do with these is add them to soup. So I've tried to put a couple little recipe ideas in the pictures on these, so you can kind of get an idea of maybe how to start incorporating them. Chances are, if you're having a soup at my house, I have snuck in some of these somehow, because my husband would not eat kale plain, but he does not differentiate the texture between spinach and kale when it's in a soup. And so same for my little girl. The more you cook it, the softer it gets. And so easy to saute, add to casseroles, any kind of dish that you're going to be cooking for a while. You can eat these raw. You can eat obviously spinach and kale raw in a salad, or cook them way down, stew them like our collard greens that we're kind of used to. So really great in our B vitamins that promote heart health. Okay, next one. Our next one is Brussels sprouts. He likes Brussels sprouts. Okay. I love Brussels sprouts. When I was kind of just refreshing over all this, I found a study that said that people who ate more vegetables like the cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, those kind of type vegetables had less calcium buildup in their aorta, which is part of our heart, the largest blood vessel actually to our heart. And so they had, I would say, probably better outcomes than people who didn't eat these type of vegetables. And so I did a little picture down there. So Brussels sprouts and broccoli, those two same kind of vegetables, they're great for roasting. That's typically what you're gonna see, roasted Brussels sprouts. They can be roasted together because they have similar textures, and so they should kind of cook alongside each other well. Broccoli, rich in fiber, antioxidants, it's anti-inflammatory. So overall, just really good for our heart health as well. It can help lower our cholesterol. Oh, if anybody's watching their cholesterol, but that's a big part of our heart health, and helping maintain a healthy blood pressure. So anybody have a special way they like to roast Brussels sprouts or prepare? Oh, okay, I see a pointing finger. Let's hear it. How do you like Brussels sprouts?
Oh, okay.
I told her, and by the way, we're having cauliflower tonight at our house, so come join us.
Okay.
I just bake them in the oven at a high temperature with a little bit of olive oil, a minimum amount of bacon, like maybe 8 pieces or 2 cut up into little chunks, red onion, and then mix it every 15 minutes, cook it for 45 minutes. Yeah. And I put them out for a church dinner one time, and our pastor ate them as hors d'oeuvres before they were gone by the time
That's
dinner came about.
Yeah, I have to tell this story because I missed the same thing. I tagged along to a boys' night with my husband, and of course I brought Brussels sprouts because, I mean, what else does the dietitian bring? And my husband's best friend looked at me and was like, Brussels sprouts, Leslie, really? And I had roasted them and put some craisins, some cranberries, so also seasonal, and a balsamic glaze on them. He still to this day talks about them. That was probably 8 or 9 years ago. And he's like, remember that time you brought Brussels sprouts? I was like, I sure do. And so just kind of something to think about if you're kind of wondering whether or not your guests would love those kind of foods. It's, something to try. So we'll go to the next one. So beets and turnips, those root vegetables, they contain potassium, which is essential for helping keep our blood pressure down. So when we're talking heart health, I think everybody kind of thinks blood pressure, okay, we need to be watching our blood pressure. And so these are great for helping with blood pressure. This picture is actually beets, turnips, carrots, and I think parsnips. So all of those vegetables are also similar texture, great for roasting together. Typically we roast them in the oven, but when I was going through pictures and recipes, they can also be pickled. So pickled beets, I don't know about pickled turnips, but pickled beets came up a lot, and so just a different way to eat those. Anybody like beets? Not my favorite vegetable, but definitely do try to incorporate them. The next is one of my favorite winter vegetables, so our winter squashes. So not the yellow summer squash that you might be familiar with, but these are going to be like that picture shows, our acorn squash, our butternut squashes, our spaghetti squash. These are also really rich in potassium. That help with the sodium and our blood pressure. And so they also contain magnesium, which helps the rhythm of our heart and helps to make DNA in our body. Also included a couple of pictures here. One thing I think people don't think about is roasting your butternut squash and adding it to your salad. So increasing our fiber there with our green leafy vegetables like we already talked about. So kind of doing a double whammy there. This picture on the edge is our stuffed butternut squash. I'm sure you've seen pictures of using spaghetti squash, using like that spaghetti squash as a base instead of pasta, things like that. I would say definitely yes to increasing our veggies, but I don't always promote swapping it out for our carbs. We need those carbs as well, but definitely want to add more of our veggies here to help with our blood pressure. Next one. So we're going to switch over to the fruits, with it being almost orange citrus season. Quick question, has anyone seen the sumo oranges? Are you familiar with the sumo oranges?
No.
Oh, they're my new favorite orange. They just taste so different than an orange, and they're so easy to peel. So maybe this season, I think January is when they start making their way to the store. If you see the sumo citrus, give it a try because they're really, really good. They contain a lot of great fiber, also great for our heart health and its ability to lower cholesterol and blood pressure. A great thing about citrus is we can eat it by itself. It's an easy snack. We can, throw it in our bag, or, it's kind of portable. We can take it with us. Try it on salads. We can add it to smoothies. There's a lot of different things we can do with citrus if we're adding it to a meal. Anybody have a fun, interesting way they like to do citrus fruits in the winter?
In wine.
I agree.
Healthy, right?
Heart health pending on that one. Lots of research around that, but I also agree with that.
I mean, in Girl Scouts, we used to eat the fruit and then use the skin to make cupcakes.
Cupcake.
In the fire, you put the
Oh, yeah, okay.
orange in the fire and shakes.
Very interesting.
Like the cupcake one.
And it's like the smells of the season too. When I think about like the holiday smells, I think of like the citrus with the cinnamon and all of that. So definitely gonna start finding those as lower prices in the store as the winter kind of gets further in. And then the next one, we mentioned cranberries, also just great with helping our blood pressure and our cholesterol. You can get the same benefits from dried cranberries as regular whole cranberries, but just kind of keep in mind they're usually higher in sugar. They've been concentrated down. A lot of them have added sugar to them, but don't let that deter you if that's all that you have. You can easily throw them into casseroles. I think that's like a sweet potato casserole with cranberries and looks like maybe walnuts, and then some baked, I think I saw like a baked oatmeal. You can think about, you know, those kind of heartier things that you're gonna be baking to kind of get them softer, especially if you're using dried. I like to throw my dried craisins into my oatmeal in the morning, kind of let them soak and cook with the oatmeal. So just another added benefit there. If you're pairing it with things that also help with your cholesterol, like oats and fiber. Okay. So the next one. And then probably my very favorite of all of these, pomegranates. Anybody like pomegranates? Do you like peeling the pomegranates? Oh, it's the worst. But I did actually see recently, my mom peels them underwater, and that kind of helps with all the popping of them and peels them. But I did see if you whack it with a spoon, it's supposed to help all the little kernels fall out. So maybe something y'all can try this season with a pomegranate. Give it a good whack and see what happens. Super high in antioxidants. The recent research shows that pomegranates and pomegranate juice, that's also big in the grocery store, the pomegranate juice can help with the coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, and some studies show it can help with the buildup of the plaque in your arteries. So overall, just a really great superfruit. You can add the kernels to, like, I think that's a spin on avocado toast. Looks like maybe peanut butter toast with pomegranates. Put them in salads. One big thing that we do at my family gatherings, we mix grapefruit segments and grapefruit juice with the pomegranates. So double whammy there with the citrus and the pomegranates. And really, really good juicy fruits there. And that is all that I have. Did y'all have some questions for me? Yes.
In this day and time, so much stuff is processed, and if you're trying to watch your sodium and your, you know, all your levels, what kind of spices do you recommend that you consider?
Spices? Okay, so definitely when you're wanting to watch your sodium and just any of like the heart healthy things, you want to read the label. And so for it to be considered a low sodium item, it has to be less than 140 milligrams of sodium. And so those spices, they'll actually sneak salt into some of those spices, like even cumin. We've seen salt added to cumin. And so if you look and turn the label over and just make sure that the ingredients don't list any of that. There's also the Mrs. Dash type things that are sodium free. And then typically what I always recommend is seasoning your foods with items like bell peppers, onions, garlic, things that are not gonna add any more sodium to what you're cooking, so you can really control that. Did I answer that enough for you?
I'd like to give a plug to a store that is in Cordova. You go down Fisher Still, and they produce things like gluten-free, sugar-free. We buy a gift card for a good friend of ours who has several limitations, but they're very content-oriented. So if you're looking for a treat for somebody who needs gluten-free, it's a great place to shop.
Awesome.
We got a question from online. Do you recommend a certain amount of servings of fruits or vegetables in a day, in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, we're shooting for, 3 to 4 servings of those fruits and vegetables. What I usually recommend to help you kind of keep that in the forefront is, we call it the plate method. And so that's kind of what's taking over versus the old pyramid that you've probably seen from the nutrition world. It's now, we want to make half of our plate non-starchy vegetables, so things like our lettuces, tomatoes, summer squash. Some of the winter squashes are not non-starchy, they are starchy. Green beans, things like that. And so if we're kind of going into that, especially with our lunch and dinner meals, with the thought of, okay, I need to make half my plate those non-starchy vegetables, I think that just helps us be mindful about getting those in. I like to kind of, when I'm making snack lists or kind of talking to someone about snacks, is remind them, like, we can always do fruits and vegetables as snacks, with dips and things that help with protein and keep us satisfied. But I think that's an easy way to kind of think about keeping that at the forefront, to get in as much as we can. I don't think it's gonna hurt us to get in more than 3 to 4 servings of vegetables and fruits, but just making sure that we're trying to at least do that at every single meal.
Yes, we see a lot of advertising, especially in the morning, on fruits and vegetables that are encapsulated in those small things, heart healthy beets, and you can't go hardly an hour without seeing sometime. Can I get your interpretation of fresh versus processed? They seem to be doing a better freeze-dried method now than in the old days. Did you have a comment on those little capsules we take daily?
My thoughts on those are, if we can prioritize getting it from the food first, we're gonna get more of the benefits of the whole food from whatever it is. So a lot of times, we're getting the fiber that comes with eating the whole piece of fruit and the skin or whatever it might be. So no harm in I think taking those appropriately, but just keep in mind, you're probably gonna be more satisfied eating those actual fruits and vegetables, as far as, feeling the fullness of the fiber and all of that kind of thing. So I always try to prioritize those things first, but I don't think it hurts if you've been advised that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I retired from the military, so I know what cooking for the masses is. So why is hospital food so bland?
I will give y'all the best answer I can, and you take it as you hear it. We have one menu that we go off of, and then we deviate from that to fit other diets, if that makes sense. So they're cooking one thing and they're adjusting it for our sodium controlled, our heart healthy, our diabetics. And so honestly, they do minimal seasoning to try to please everybody. And then we'll give other people salt and pepper packet if they're able to have it. We'll give you an herb packet if you aren't allowed to have the salt packet, to try to season it better. But this is what I like to tell my patients. I say food is something that is so specific to each person. If I went home and made spaghetti, you might say you don't like my spaghetti, but you think our hospital spaghetti is the best spaghetti you've ever had. It's just, our tastes are all different, especially when you're sick. So when they start telling me, well, Leslie, I don't really like this meal. I'm like, you know what? You're not hurting my feelings. That's fine. Let's find you something that you can like, because I understand, we all like things different and seasoned different and taste different.
So you mentioned Mrs. Dash. Why don't you supply Mrs. Dash on the side?
We supply a similar, it's a McCormick seasoning packet. We typically give it for our heart healthy diets, our AHA diets, where they can't have salt. So not everybody gets it. Have you been in the hospital recently, having to have the food? So yeah, that's my best answer I can give.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just a quick comment, there's talk about salt, there's now Himalayan salt, there's all different types of sea salt, you know, did you have a particular comment on just differentiation between salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt?
Salt is salt. It's all does, it's all gonna do the same thing in your body. The more that we can try to reduce how much we're using across the board of any kind of salt, I think that's gonna be our best bet. So yeah, obviously there's different types like the iodized salt and things like that, but salt is salt.
Salt, okay.
Just want to plug you and your department. I had the pleasure of working with one of Leslie's associates when I was an oncology patient. In times when I was so heavily medicated, I didn't really know what was going on. But their level of knowledge and professionalism really helped me a lot. So kudos to you and your training and your team. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Let's have just share a quick story about gardening. I just put some concrete blocks up, tossed some potting soil in there, and then the grandchildren and I went out and planted little small potatoes, and then we're gonna harvest them in October. Well, I started